Shri Ganesha Sharada Gurubhyo Namaha Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedasi Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaya Patage Namaha. Welcome to all for this session on Ramayana to chapter 9 of Sundara Kanda. In the previous chapters, Hanuman is searching from house to house of every titan in that Lanka searching for Sita, and now he entered into the uh, palace of Ravana, searching for Sita. Within these precincts, a magnificent building, remarkable for its spaciousness and splendor, arrested the attention of Hanuman, the son of Marutha. It was 2 miles in width, 4 in length, and belonged to the king of the Titans himself. And Hanuman, the slayer of his enemies, ranging here and there in search of the princess of Videha, the large-eyed Sita, beheld that godly residence where the Titans dwelt together, and he approached the palace of the king. Surrounded by 3 and 4 tusked elephants and guarded in its entire length by warriors bearing weapons in their hands, he beheld that dwelling thronged with Titan women, consorts of Ravana, and also the daughters of kings who had been forcibly carried away by him, which resembled an ocean teeming with crocodiles, sharks, whales, enormous fish, and serpents, agitated by the force of the tempest. In the splendor of the abode of Vaishravana, Chandra, and Harivahana was reflected in Ravana's palace, a splendor that was unequaled and challengeless, and the prosperity of the residences of Kubera, Yama, and Varuna were rivaled, nay, surpassed by that of the Titans abode. In the center of that place, in the center of that palace, offspring of the wind, is Hanuman, saw yet another edifice, well constructed and furnished with innumerable grills, formerly created in heaven at Brahma's wish by Vishwakarma. That noble car, embellished with gems, was called Pushpaka, which Kubera had acquired by prolonged austerities, and of which the king of the Titans, having vanquished him by his might, took possession. And that mighty monkey ascended that splendid car, containing figures of wolves made of Kartaswara and Hiranya gold, and adorned with slender pillars of dazzling splendor, furnished with private rooms and gleaming pavilions, resembling the Meru and Mandara mountains, licking the skies and blazing like the sun. This masterpiece of Vishwakarma had many golden stairways and a superb and marvelous ceiling. It contained balconies and galleries of deep blue sapphire and other precious gems. The floors were encrusted with rare pearls, which rendered it blindingly beautiful. Built of red sandalwood and shining like pure gold, it resembled the rising sun, and subtle perfumes rose therefrom. That mighty monkey stationed there smelled the rich odor of wines and viands, which rose on every side, and those ambrosial and penetrating fumes seemed to him to be the embodiment of Anila himself, and were inhaled by him as coming from an intimate friend. And that aroma seemed to say to Hanuman, "Come here, where Ravana is to be found." And he proceeded further and beheld a vast and glorious hall. Now that spacious apartment was very dear to Ravana, who looked on it as a greatly cherished woman, and its jeweled stairways and galleries of pure gold gave it a dazzling appearance, the floors being of crystal with inlay of ivory pearl, diamond, coral, silver, and gold. It was adorned with many jeweled pilasters which were symmetrical, straight, elegant, and inlaid with exceeding artistry, and it was supported by tall pillars of equal size, resembling wings, so that the building seemed to be flying in the air, and the floor was covered by a carpet wide and four-cornered like the earth, patterned patterned as with varied countries, kingdoms, and dwellings. And there the song of birds could be heard, and it was pervaded by a celestial fragrance hung with rich tapestries, darkened by incense fumes, spotless and pure as swan, garlanded with leaves and flowers, lending it the resemblance of Kamadhenu, bringing delight to the heart, color to the cheek, giving birth to prosperity and banishing all sorrow. Apartments of the king of Titans gratified every sense as if it were a mother. Entering that abode protected by Ravana, Hanuman asked himself, can this be paradise or the region of the gods or Indra's capital or the state of supreme bliss? And he examined the golden lamps which resembled gamblers absorbed in their dice, who defeated by their opponents or plunged in thought, and Hanuman perceived brilliance of the lamps and the luster of Ravana and the splendor of decorations illumined the apartment. He beheld innumerable women lying on the rugs, attired in every kind of raiment, with wreaths on their heads, who, under the influence of wine, had fallen asleep, having ceased to disport themselves, half the night being spent, and on account of the silence, that great company, decked with ornaments, the tinkling of which was no longer audible, resembled a vast lake filled with lotuses, where the sound of the swans and humming of bees has ceased. Maruti gazed on the faces of those lovely women with eyes and mouths shut fast, emitting a flower like fragrance, and they resembled lotuses folding their petals at evening, wait for the dawn to open them, when more or like water lilies which the bees, intoxicated with love, visit continually. With just cause did that noble and mighty monkey compare them to Nimkoshi, for the harem was bright with their radiance as the starry heavens on a serene autumnal night, and in their midst, king of the Titans blazed like a fair moon, encircled by attendant stars. Then that monkey said to himself, those planets that have fallen from the firmament, their merit exhausted, are all reunited here. And in sooth, those women in their grace, beauty, and magnificence shone like dazzling meteors. Some lay wrapped in slumber into which they had fallen in the mid of dancing and feasting, their hair and crowns in disarray, their ornaments scattered here and there. Others among those lovely beings had lost their anklets, and the tilaka mark on their foreheads had been effaced. Some had allowed their garlands to fall aside, some had broken their pearls, and their raiment in disorder. Their girdles loosened, resembled disburdened mules, while others, bereft of earrings, their garlands torn and crushed, looked like flowering creepers trodden under foot by great elephants in the forest. Sometimes the loosened pearls like the scintillating rays of the moon, lay between the women's breasts like sleeping swans, while chains of emerald resembled drakes of or those of gold looked like birds, and those women were like unto rivers, their thighs being the banks, where swans, geese, and other waterfowl disport themselves, or sleeping resembled streams, the golden bells on their girdles, the ripples, their faces, the lotuses, their amorous desires, the crocodiles, their grays banks. On their tender limbs, the marks of the ornaments look like bees, while the wheels of others, rising and falling with their breath, fluttered gracefully before their faces like bright streamers of many colored yarn, and the earrings of others vibrated gently with the circulating air. Their subtly perfumed breath, impregnated with the aroma of sugar sweetened wines which they had drunk, caused Ravana delight, and some of his consorts in dream devoured the lips of their rivals again and again, deeming them to be the kings. Passionately devoted to their lord, these lovely women, no longer mistress of themselves, offered their companions marks of their affection. Some, in their rich attire, slept leaning on their arms, laden with bracelets. Some rested on their companions' breasts, some on their laps, their bosoms, their thighs, and backs, and under the influence of wine, clinging amorously to one another, those women of slender waist slept their arms intertwined. Those groups of damsels enfolding one another resembled a garland of flowers visited by amorous bees, or like creepers opening to the caress of the vernal breeze that intertwine, forming clusters of blossom, or the interlocking branches of great forest trees full of swarming bees. Thus seemed this gathering of Ravana's consorts, and on account of the proximity of these women sleeping close to one another, it was impossible to distinguish to whom the jewels, veils, and garlands covering their limbs belonged to. While Ravana slept, the beauty of those women resembling golden lambs seemed to watch over him, and there were daughters of Rajarishis, giants, and celestial beings who had become his consorts, and that warlike Titan king had acquired them after subduing their relatives, though some had followed him of their own accord from love. None had been forcibly borne away who had not been attracted by his prowess and qualities, and none had belonged to another save the daughter of Janaka, whose heart was set on Rama. None was devoid of nobility, beauty, intelligence, and grace, and each was the object of Ravana's desire. Then the Lord of Monkeys, Hanuman, endowed with virtue, reflected, the consort of Raghava was as one of these women, the king of Titans, would indeed be blessed today. That if Raghava's consort, Sita, if she simply stayed with Raghava and not been abjected by Ravana, then king of those Titans would indeed be blessed today, that and he lives in comfort. But Sita is far superior to them on account of her great qualities, which is evident since for her sake that mighty monarch of Lanka has committed this wicked deed. Thus ended chapter 9 of Sundara Kanda in Ramayana. Namaste Sharada Devi Kashmir Puravasini Swamaham Prarthaye Nityam Vidya Danancha Dehime.